Hi everyone, my name's Gian Slater and I'm from Melbourne, Australia. Today I'm going to talk about some creative strategies I use when being a vocalist in an ensemble where the singer is not necessarily the foreground element. For example, using the voice as part of an instrumental section or as a textural element or as a sonic element in the background of a musical fabric. In these situations, I often need to think about singing without words, as a text is one of the main devices that places the voice at the foreground of a musical setting. So for the type of vocal practice I'm going to discuss today, I'll use wordless singing as an umbrella term to discuss a range of approaches. Today, I'm going to share two approaches to wordless singing I use in different musical settings. The first approach is considering blend with an ensemble through tone and syllable choices. The second approach is manipulating the sound through extended techniques and using external objects. One of the aspects of singing wordlessly that I really love is the potential to really integrate within an ensemble, to be able to blend in, support, and accompany as well as assert new ideas. Now, there's no real way to know ahead of time what's going to work, but in general, I've found that when I'm singing as part of an instrumental section, my fundamental approach is to find a blend and cohesion with the other sounds around me. The common expressive devices that singers use when out the front of a group, like stylistic affectation, embellishment, or vibrato, can often interfere with that blend. So to me, two of the most important considerations in these settings are choices about sound and syllables. When thinking about tone, I often begin with a neutral approach to my delivery, whereby I'm singing with no vibrato and no embellishment. Within that neutrality, the changes in tone production can be really useful and dramatic when working on the blend with sounds around. The syllable choices reinforce sound but also add articulation. If I'm singing a rhythmic passage, for example, with a saxophone, I'm going to articulate using more consonants than I would if I was singing with strings where I may choose a softer vowel. The sound and syllables I use also have an effect on the intonation, which is obviously very important as well. Once I find the blend or the melting into each other's sounds that I'm after, I can then look at ways to emerge from out of that blended sound if the music calls for it. A neutral vocal sound can be more technically versatile or agile and can often serve a more complex musical materials, be they harmonic, rhythmic, experimental, improvisational. But also by removing the affectation, it can also open up new and more individual expressive possibilities. So now I'm going to demonstrate a phrase sung a few different ways with considerations around the tone and syllable choice. The first phrase I will sing using mixed syllables and more articulation. So I may choose to use this sound if I am really wanting to match the rhythmic articulation of another instrument. The second option is using a breathy or airy sound, and I may choose to use this if I'm singing in an ensemble with lots of different instruments and I'm trying to add to that texture, and the airy, breathy sound can really add a depth of texture. I'll also just use one consistent open vowel sound. The third sound is a pure sound. So I may choose to use this sound if I actually want to cut through. And also if I want a more instrumental, consistent sound. So I'll use an oo or an or shape, and I'm really going to try and take the air out of the sound and make the sound as pure as I can. When I'm trying to do this, I might also consider the register. So the higher I am, the purer I am able to make that sound. In some contexts, I am searching for a different sound that might provide a new texture and dynamic contrast. This is when I turn to approaches of manipulating the sound using extended techniques and external and interfering objects. Some examples of extended sounds might be a tongue trill, using a consonant like a v or z, or actually interfering with my hand. I also may choose to introduce an external object to sing into. One of my favourites is the megaphone. I love this sound because it can be distorted and electric. It really takes the purity away from my voice and can be really useful in distancing the sound from the idea of the voice being at the forefront. Here's an example of where I've used it as a textural and background sound in a beautiful composition by Christopher Hale called Stravinsky. As a singer, it is wonderful to play with sound in this way, to play behind someone or within an ensemble's depth of texture. It requires a lot of skill and confidence in the materials, but also a confidence in making choices about your sound within the ensemble. The possibilities of wordless singing are boundless. There are so many different approaches that can bring so much life and nuance to any creative project. I hope some of these ideas will be useful in your journey composing for or working with wordless singing. Da ba